So Harry, a lot of people want to know where the price of silver is going to go, where the price of gold is going to go, but can you tell me why it might not even matter?
I mean, historically, every single currency has gone down in flames. Every single one. If history tells us anything, the only thing that really is going to matter is how much you have in ounces.
Check out the Scottsdale Mint Eagle Stacker Silver Round. Precision crafted, interlocking, and available in multiple sizes. These are an SD Bullion exclusive, a company trusted by hundreds of thousands of customers. Visit sdbullion.com/stacker. Wow, look at that. We've got some gold at spot in the showcase, Harry.
We're able to do that now and again if the price moves the right direction after we've bought it. It's an exciting thing, and usually that'll be empty by the end of the day when we offer spot gold like that.
So someone came in and sold all of those little 1/10-ounce Krugerrands, huh?
That's actually about half of what the fella sold me. There were 50 of them originally.
And you do have some pre-33 gold. We talked about that in a recent video. And I kind of like that you can see the edge on it. It's not actually in a slab.
Yeah, and that's one way if you're not sure how to tell a $20 gold piece from a 1-ounce gold eagle. The gold eagle has a reeded edge, quite a different edge on the $20 gold piece with the stars on it. And the reverse is obviously very different too. It's interesting, I was reading about when they first were designing it, they thought that the St. Gaudens effigy was a little bit heavy for our time, so they actually trimmed up her body. If you look closely, she's a little more full-bodied in the $20 gold piece than in the gold eagle.
So you've got gold at spot, and you also have some silver at spot while it's at melt, which is basically the same thing, right?
Yeah, let's review what that is yet again. Spot is the spot price of gold or silver or platinum in the paper market. Melt means spot times the weight. So spot and melt are the same thing if we're talking about a 1-ounce piece of precious metal. But in the case of silver dollars, for example, they're 0.7734 troy ounce of silver. So you would multiply 0.7734 times the spot price, which right now is $70.94, and that would give you a melt price of $54.86.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty good deal. I mean, for the longest time, when you were buying precious metals, you always had to pay a premium. It was kind of rare to get stuff at melt or at spot, but now we're seeing more of these deals out there, I think.
Yeah, because we're settled into a channel price-wise, and we're way below the all-time high of a few months ago, but we're still in the 70s. And so the premiums, as we've discussed in recent videos, are really all but gone on a lot of the common circulated silver and even gold.
Yeah, let's take a look at the price. We've got gold at $46.50 and silver right around $71 an ounce. Silver is actually down a little bit today.
It is, and we're kind of like we were for 10 years after 2011. We were in a channel between $20 and not quite $30, and it stayed there for a long time. And perhaps we're in a new channel, because it feels to me like we've settled in at about $70, $75 an ounce, back and forth in there.
Well, we started the year off at 72, so if you take away the big roller coaster that we had in January, we're pretty much flat for the year.
Yeah, which isn't a bad place to be. It helps you predict what your cost is going to be going forward, maybe at least for the next few months, and maybe an opportunity to add to your stack in a more predictable manner.
You know, Harry, I wanted to ask you something. It seems like the metals kind of do the opposite of what we think they're going to do sometimes. For example, if there's a report that comes out that says there's a lot of inflation, you would think, oh, the metals are going up, but they react the other way because it seems like maybe rates are going to go up or not go down, and so they kind of do the opposite of what we think. And the same is true with the war. Whenever there's stuff going on, why is that?
I'm not sure, but sometimes what we think is going to happen already happened and we just weren't paying attention. And what I mean is, let's say there's some event that we think is going to drive the metals up. The anticipation of that event sometimes shows the metals reacting in what we would think is the proper way. And by the time that event actually happens, it's already happened. It's already part of the price of the metal. So essentially, we do it in advance. And then when the event happens, we wonder why it's not doing what we predicted. Sometimes it's because it already did.
In stocks and in trading, you hear the saying, buy the rumor, sell the news. So pretty much what Harry said, the market sometimes already factors those things in. By the time that you hear about it or see it actually materialize, it's already too late for, for the market. So I think that's what we've been seeing lately.
So the markets are forward thinking, and you need to factor that in when you're seeing the price move.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Harry hit it spot on. I mean, it's something that's been factored in, and when we see it, change that drastically. I mean, silver has been fluctuating $2, $3 sometimes in a day. It's in a weird territory, but as we were speaking, it isn't a channel. It could take just one event for it to, go in either direction. So it'll be interesting to see which direction it goes into.
And also, if you look at Wall Street as a comparison, there are whole libraries of books about investing in a contrarian way, meaning the crowd is going this way, and so I'm going to go that way. And I think it was Earl Nightingale, the famous motivational speaker, who said that if you follow the crowd and it takes you in the right direction, it would be the first time in human history. So maybe it's best not to follow the crowd. Whatever the prognosticators are saying, including me, go the other way. Maybe that's the right direction.
Well, when I look at silver price, for example, and I see it in the low 70s, it seems like a lot of people are not wanting to buy silver right now. They're not investing in silver, at least not as many as when silver was at $100 an ounce, for example. So I think if you want to be a contrarian investor, now would be a good time to buy more.
It would seem so. By comparison, I mean, people were saying to me in the shop at $110, gee, I really missed out. Well, here you go. It's back down again. On the other hand, you got to work your plan. I'm always saying that, and I think it's more important than ever to just not get too swayed by the ups and downs and just work your plan.
Looks like we got some more treasures that have been picked by Adrian. What are we looking at?
We got some really nice stuff. I'm very excited to show some of these. Starting off, we have a beautiful 1802/1, so it's an overdate.
So this one is the draped bust dollar.
Yes.
1802/1. That's a really cool one.
Yeah, and if you zoom into the date, you can see it's very dramatic, the overdate.
Yeah, look at that. It's like they just stamped it right over the top.
Yeah, it's really cool. The next one that we have here is a trade dollar, but this one is not just any trade dollar. It's a Proof 64 Ultra Cameo trade dollar.
So real high end.
Yes, and I mean, look at that. If you're familiar with the series, you know they don't come that nice.
One thing I will point out for keen observers, this is the only US coin that's got 420 on it.
Yeah, so it's the weight is on there.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, and again, that was standardized for the trading.
Yeah.
That happened around the world, especially in Asia.
And just to put it in perspective, if I may just say that in terms of a measurement, there's 480 grains to a troy ounce. So just to give you an idea of what 420 grains means, it's not quite an ounce.
And here's another coin. I mean, I'm sure if you collect coins, you've seen the Cat Bust Half, 1814. So it's a very early type. I mean, look at this piece. Look how it survived over all these years. This is a series that you can collect. There's so many varieties. The Overton, there's a book, the Overton Varieties book.
It's almost 700 pages of various varieties, so it's a very exciting and beautiful series to collect. You could go a whole lifetime and never see all of them, which is part of the joy of the hunt. That is a great series, Adrian.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Harry, you're very familiar with this. I'll let you talk about the coin there.
Oh, the Fluctuanger cent. Yeah, this was a German immigrant to the United States, Fluctuanger, who tried to come up with an alloy that would be durable and different than what the mint was already using, and tried to sell the idea to the U.S. Mint. For any typeset, I think it's a must-have.
And then we've got one of the most famous cents out there, the 1909 VDBS.
Yes, this is the king of the Lincoln series. The 1909 SVDB.
Can you explain what the VDB means, Adrian?
Yes, yeah. So the VDB are the initials of the designer of the coin. So Victor David Brenner.
Correct.
Is the name there. The coins with the VDB initials are highly prized by collectors.
And then we go from the Lincoln cent key date to the Mercury dime key date, the 1916D.
Yep, and that's another one in the series when we come across these coins that we see missing from a lot of albums. So the 1916D is a very popular coin and one that collectors, would love to own.
Looks like you picked out a few other coins here too.
Yeah, some really interesting pieces. One here is in an old green holder, the OGH as people call it. This is the commemorative dollar. So it's a 1922 Grant with no star. So there's a variety with star and no star.
What's this one right here?
It's a colonial.
So it's obviously pretty old.
Oh yeah, it's from 1785.
Oh, wow.
Up next, we have a 3-cent nickel.
3-cent nickel.
3-cent nickel, but not just any 3-cent nickel, a proof 67 3-cent nickel. And this one's from 1889, the Roman numeral there. And it's just a really nice example of a coin that you don't see much.
Yeah, a little bit of coin history with that one. And then we have a Morgan dollar to round it out.
Yes, yeah. So this is not just any Morgan dollar, it's the 1889 Carson City Morgan dollar.
Oh, we gotta see that.
So it's one of the coins that you need to complete your set. And again, one that's always missing from people's books, the 93S, the 89cc, and a few other key dates.
And as I mentioned in a recent video, we're trying really hard, and I give Adrian all the credit, to increase the quality of coins that we have available here. So not just stackable gold and silver, not just inexpensive, everyday coins to fill your albums, and there's nothing wrong with that. I still enjoy it myself. But there's an element of the hobby out there that are looking for premier, superb rarities, and so we're trying to more and more accommodate those collectors.
So Harry, a lot of people want to know where the price of silver is going to go, where the price of gold is going to go, but can you tell me why it might not even matter?
My feeling, and it's just me talking, but I think if you believe that the dollar is going to go away or be devalued or otherwise be worthless, and I respect whatever your opinion is, but if you're of that mindset, and plenty of the stackers who come in here are of that mindset, why measure your wealth in something you think's going away? Why not just measure your wealth in ounces, thereby being able to quantify exactly what you have? If you have 3,000 ounces of silver or 2 ounces of gold, is it really necessary to put a dollar amount on it when you already don't respect that mode of trade? I know it does make a difference, because when you go to sell and you go to buy, we still use dollars, but if the end game is barter and just stacking for your investment and ignoring the dollar, or even worse, just disavowing the dollar altogether, why measure your wealth in it at all? Measure it in ounces.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Eventually, all currencies will not exist anymore, and the only true money out there is gold and silver, so it's the best way to measure your wealth.
I mean, historically, every single currency has gone down in flames, every single one. While I don't wish that on us or our dollar or our country, if you believe that, if history tells us anything, the only thing that really is going to matter is how much you have in ounces, or in, if you're looking at scripture, how much you have in talents of gold or talents of silver, or ounces or kilos. What's the difference about a dollar?
We were once attached to a gold monetary system where our dollars were backed by gold. And, with all the conflicts, all the wars that we went into, we had to use our reserves, and we had countries like France and other countries wanting their gold out because they saw how much we were spending on all these wars. We eventually had to get out of the gold-backed dollar, and that's when we made the deals with Saudi Arabia to be backed by the petrodollar, where everybody needed to trade in dollars. I don't know if you've noticed, but China hasn't been very involved at all with this conflict, and it almost puts to think, if they're staying out of it just to see us spend all our money into oblivion. And if you really think about it, China's been buying lots of precious metals, lots of silver, lots of gold, and we're just printing money. And what is it backed by? There's not much there to it. So what Harry was saying is, if you start putting your money into ounces, into the real assets, I mean, it's not a deflationary asset like dollars are.
Adrian brings up such a good point and such an interesting memory for me. President Reagan did spend the Soviet Union into oblivion. He increased our military massively, and then he came up with this idea of Star Wars, where missiles could be shot out of the sky, which has actually become a reality now in Israel and in the United States. But the Soviet Union couldn't keep up. Without a shot being fired, that whole empire collapsed. Perhaps that's China's taken a page out of our playbook and trying to see us collapse by just spending on wars that they're not going to even get involved in.
So, but bringing it back to precious metals, you're saying the bottom line is, why measure in the dollar if eventually the dollar is going to be irrelevant?
Right. I mean, let's just continue the example that Adrian made. Let's just say you're in the Soviet Union during the collapse, and you're one of the lucky few that might have a stash of gold put away. Well, when the Soviet ruble became worthless, you still had your wealth. If you own things that are tangible assets being homes, art, precious metals, you have something that will go beyond the survival or lifespan of a particular currency, because you have an actual thing of value.
It's very true, and at the end of the day, I would like to be holding something that has some real value.
I think it's good advice. I think everyone should at least consider having something to fall back on should the dollar or whatever currency you currently use collapses.
And like we talked about earlier, You know, you kind of want to buy when things are down, and silver's down about 50% from the all-time high, so it could be an opportunity.
I believe it is.
Well, as always, thank you so much, Harry.
Thank you, Silver Dragon.
Thanks a lot, Adrian.
Thank you. And I also wanted to mention that on Saturday and Sunday this coming weekend, April 11th and 12th, we're going to be there at the Portland Coin Show, right? It'll be at the Holiday Inn in Hayden Island. And we'll have lots of really cool coins, graded material, bullion. It's a great show.
Yeah, we'll also be doing a lot of purchasing there. And remember, guys, no sales tax in Oregon. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of good deals.
Yeah, come have some fun.